Randomness? It's a girl thing. Planning your entire future with a guy you've only spoken 3 words to? It's a girl thing. Online shopping problem? It's a girl thing. A full camera roll? It's a girl thing. Going to the bathroom together? It's a girl thing. You name it. It's a girl thing. Hi, and welcome back to the It's a Girl Thing podcast. It's Kate, and I've got a special guest today. So this is Hannah. Welcome on. I'm so excited to have you. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name's Hannah. I'm a busy gal, I would say. I've got a few things on the go, 7 different things that I'm currently juggling, but I'm self-employed as of a few months ago, which has been so nice because I was juggling those with full-time work and it was very, very hard. But just real quick fire. One of the things I do is Dear the Series, which is a series of guided journals. And so it is basically journals that are helping people through self-discovery and self-care and self-reflection through prompted journals. So I've got 2 journals. I've got Dear Future, Dear Me, and I love it. I love it. There's about 30 different stores across New Zealand that stock my book, which is really, really great.
Oh.
And then I also run a non-profit organization, which isn't really a business. Yes, it's more of a non-profit. It's a charity that I launched last year, and it's doing really well. It's got about 27,000 followers. That basically it is a space for women to come together and meet and hang out, because I realize it is so unbelievably hard making friends as a woman. And so I remember just sitting there going, how are people doing it? Like, it's actually impossible. Why has no one done anything about it? And so we've got about 50 different volunteer leaders, which is amazing. We've got 2 interns and running across 17 different cities across New Zealand, which is really, really cool. So that takes up a significant amount of my day, but it's very, very fun. I also run a marketing agency called 7 Content Studio. So I've got a few clients that I work for. And so I do their social media and I do strategy and content creation through that. So that's called 7 Content Studio. And then I also run something called Dear Brides, which is New Zealand's first wedding content creation studio. And so we shoot weddings through just literally an iPhone, and we kind of capture lo-fi, raw and authentic moments of a bride's wedding day, and then we present it to them 24 hours after they wake up.
Wow.
We wake up from the wedding and the content is there, it's delivered, the reels are edited. So it's really fun. I love it. It's a busy season coming up. I'm flying to Queenstown tomorrow
Oh,
to shoot 2
wow.
weddings.
Exciting.
So it's very, very fun. I need to recount them. So what? Dear the Series, Dear Community, 7, Dear Brides. I've been running it for a while. It's called Everything Vintage, which is a secondhand clothing Instagram page. But to be honest, I'm thinking of maybe phasing that out. And okay, so and then I've got TikTok as well, which is something that I kind of use as a platform to share my life and also share different tips that I have, but also it's a great way for me to be able to work with brands. So it's really cool. And then I'm also an actor as well. So I love acting. I love being in commercials and movies. Yeah.
That's a
I think
lot.
I think so, yeah. So that's me. That's what keeps me busy. Yeah.
Definitely busy is an understatement. But yeah, I have been following Youth for Like Dear Community for so long, since I was about
Oh, really?
16. And
Oh, wow.
like as soon as you started it, I saw it come up and I was like, hold far, wait, I need to follow this and to wait till I turn 18. And I'm
Oh,
so
I love it.
excited because I'm moving for uni like this weekend. And there's a
What?
Dear Community event in my new city.
Oh my
So
goodness. What
like the
event is
week
it?
after I'm there, so I'm going to that and it's going to be my first one. So I'm both excited and terrified.
I love it. I'm so glad you're going. That's so cool. Yeah, because Dear Community was launched in March 2022 and we officially became a registered charity last year. So it's been going for nearly 2 years, which is crazy. It's so cool to see that people are loving it and are attending. So yay, I'm excited to hear what you think of it.
I'll
It's
definitely
so
have to
fun.
let you know. Yeah. Well, I think that's
Yes.
also kind of where the concept of this podcast came from, like creating that community for that age range that's so
Yeah.
dynamic because everybody in there's at a different stage of life.
Mhm.
Like an
Yeah.
18-year-old could be at the same stage of life as a 30-year-old, just depending on what decisions they've made, who they're surrounded by, their environment, and all those things.
Yeah.
Because of your age, you don't get to know people. So it's a cool way of. Did you go to uni?
Yes, yeah, I did. I studied a Bachelor of Business majoring in property, minoring in financial advice, which is where my budgeting tips and everything comes from. Wherever I talk heavily on my Instagram, oh, not my Instagram, my TikTok about budgeting and all that. And it kind of comes from this this underlying love of wanting to help people with financial advice. Even though I'm not registered to give financial advice, I have to be very careful. Very, very careful. But yes, I did go to university for 3 years. Yeah.
How do you find that like linking in with all your like side hustles and all the things you're doing on the side? How do you feel like they interact with each other, having that degree in money and knowing all about it and then managing all these things?
To be honest, do I use any of my degree? No, not really. I did want to go into property valuation, and then I did that for a year and was like, nope, not for me. So I moved into a buying role. So I was a buyer at the Mitre 10 head office for 2 years, and that was great. And the only reason why I got that job was because I had a bachelor of business, so I needed my degree. I'm trying to think from the top of my head, what has it really taught me? It was a good like base foundation. Do I recommend university? 100%. I think having the title of saying, yeah, I've got a bachelor degree, and being able to, yeah, put yourself into a career where it does require you to have a degree, I think it's great, especially with fees free, which, to be honest, I don't even know if they're going to be doing that now with the new government. But yeah, I think I'm now working for a client that is in the property space, and so I do get to use my property knowledge and my property degree along with content and social media. So it's quite a cool merge of the two. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that, like school as well, when you think back to, do I really need to know about, these kind of algebra equations? No, but it is still, it kind of helps you build your life upon these foundations. So yeah, I think it was a good move.
Worth doing, yeah. I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, they want to see that you can do the work to get there. So by having been to uni, they're like, well, you've proved that you can go and you can study and you can put in the hard work. Even if it doesn't apply, you've shown them that. Like you're
Yeah.
not just gonna drop and leave and give up on it.
Yeah, totally. And I thought it was great. It was good fun. I love learning. I love challenging my brain. And I think I took it was meant to be a 2-year gap year in London. And after a year of being a nanny, I was like, I miss learning. I really miss it. And so in that decision, I was like, actually, I'm going to go back to university, because I didn't want to go to university. And I think it's just nice to make sure your brain is being challenged. Even if you're doing a retail job, or if you're doing a cafe job, make sure you're challenging your brain. Do something in the evening, do something that you can be learn a language, just challenge your brain. Otherwise you can get quite bored. Yeah. So I'd highly recommend just keep that brain going, eh?
I think that was the plus side because I started the podcast back in the end of November. So I'd just finished high school, like exams were over. And I was like, I've got a whole summer of boredom. And like the ideas just came to me and I'm like, why not? Let's put this into action and do it. And I guess it's going to be so good because it's going to give me something I'm passionate about that I can do in my free time, but is still challenging me and helping me grow as well.
I love it. Go you. That's so cool.
I have a few questions for you, a collection, if you will. So the first thing I'm kind of asking all of my guests, because it's really what we're all about. What's your favorite thing about being a girl?
Oh, when I saw this question, I was like, oh, there's so many things. I think because I'm come from like a G community kind of background, I love the cutesy kind of events. I love how girls love to do like the pottery and like the really cute little picnics. I just love being aesthetic. I love it. I love like having an aesthetic kind of touch with my wedding content and my content that I do for other brands. I just like the kind of the girly, feminine aesthetic. That's sort of my favorite thing. It's so surface level, but it is something that I love.
I think it's really interesting because everybody has a different perspective. Some people like dig right down to the depths of what being a girl is, and then others are like, just like the getting dressed up, the getting ready, like it's so different for everybody because it doesn't mean you don't love all of it, but it's like interesting to see what your like favorite thing is when you think of like girlhood, what you think of.
Totally. Yeah, true. Actually, getting ready, getting dressed up, putting on a bit of makeup, lipstick. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's just that whole like girlhood community-ness that really ties it all together, though. I agree. Well, you've kind of beat me to it because I had what are your like businesses, side hustles? Tell me a bit more about them, but I feel like you've covered that, so I don't even think we need to go there unless you had anything more you wanted to add.
I feel like I did touch on them. Yeah, I don't think there was anything else.
What made you want to move away from like a traditional style of like career and have so many different things on the go? Because obviously you said you started out in a full-time job and now you've shifted to doing all these things on the side, but they're one thing altogether.
Yeah. I after school I went into being a nanny, and that was pretty much It was just, me doing my work and then having kind of a social life. I didn't have any side hustles because I was living in London, so it was pretty hard. But I think I realized there was something missing. There was something not quite fulfilling me. And so when I came back home, I was studying and I was like, actually, I think I can do more. And my personality, I'm a big personality gal. I love Myers-Briggs. When I came back home from London, I went into full-time study, but I was like, I feel like I can do more. My personality can definitely take on a lot more. So what can I do? So I became an extra in movies, and then I started doing all these different side hustles, Porsche, and I did heaps of babysitting and nannying, and I did event work, and I did all these different things, and I loved it. I loved like having different things and diversifying my portfolio of side hustles in a way. And I thought that was really fun. And then I went into full-time study, and I did the full-time study along with my side hustles. And then I was like, sweet, my career path is going to be a property valuer. I went into a firm and they had said to me, great, in 10 years time, we'll make you a shareholder. In 3 years time, you should be on 300K. And it was going to be a good path. I was like, sweet, I'm going to become rich by being a property valuer. And after a year, I hated it. And I was like, okay, do I give this up? Because I've literally worked 3 years to go to university for this being a property valuer. And I know that it was going to make me, if I did keep on that track. But I was like, really, my happiness is worth so much more. 2020, into 2020, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to just apply for random jobs. And I applied for a role as a buyer at the Mighty head office. And so I worked there for 2 years, but alongside of working, I built up lots of different side hustles. And I think it got to the point where I just realized that I couldn't do it all. I couldn't do it anymore. And I knew that I had to give up work, and it was really hard because it's a stable income. But I've always wanted to work for myself. I've always wanted to create a company where I could hire people. And I've always wanted to, be a leader that people love being in my team and working with me. And so, I think it was quite scary. It was a scary move. If I go back to my journal and I look at what I was predicting for 5 years' time, I never would have predicted that I would be self-employed by now. I always thought that I was going to be in a corporate role for quite a while. So it's crazy. It's exciting. It's scary, relying on random different pieces of income to help me survive. So it's fun. But do I miss the corporate life? I miss the people. I don't miss the working for someone else in a job where I don't feel like I'm fulfilled. Yeah,
that makes complete sense. I guess, especially when you've known that you've always wanted to be working for yourself, I can imagine you wouldn't miss working under somebody else.
Totally.
Have you found it like a whole learning curve as you've gone along, like having to learn new skills for each of them and then being able to transfer like some of the business running skills over to each of them?
Totally. I think my biggest advice would be, if you want to be a business owner, you need to work for people first. You need to have a boss that is good, a boss that is bad, a boss that is challenging, a boss that is more relaxed. I've had so many bosses and I've learned something from each and every one of them. And my most recent boss, he was so great to me, so great to me. He knew that I had a passion in acting, and he gave me all the time off that I needed, and he taught me so much. And I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful for my boss prior to that as well. And property valuation, he taught me it's okay to make mistakes. And I think it's meant that as a leader myself, I'm now a lot more gracious when people make mistakes. So I'm like, I was like that. I made a huge mistake when I was working for XYZ, for all these different places. And now I've become gracious because I know that the mistakes that I made were big mistakes. And they were like, yeah, it's cool. And then if someone makes a small mistake under me, I'm like, that's fine. I prefer people to make mistakes because that's how they learn. And I remember on my first day, my boss had said to me, for when I was working in a property valuation firm, he said to me, great, so now I want you to go and make as many mistakes as you can. And he said that to me, and I remember thinking, like, why would you say that? But I don't think I ever made a mistake. I think I made like one in the whole year of being there. And I remember another boss was very much didn't want me to make mistakes, and I made more mistakes. It's something in your head that's like, I can't do it, I can't make a mistake, and then you do make mistakes. And so I think all these different things that I've learned, and I've learned all about Excel and numbers. I learned about being a buyer, and I learned about the industry of retail, and I learned so much in all my roles that I'm so grateful for. And I think everything happens for a reason. So I'm so grateful that I'm now at the place where I can be a boss to people that I'm like, yeah, I know some ways that were good ways of leading people, and some ways that were not good, and I'm not going to be implementing them. So yeah.
I guess you've also had such a diverse experience that you can kind of interweave it and be like, well, I'll take this bit of information or this advice from here and this from here and put it all together to create your own style of
Yeah,
management as well.
yeah, totally. That's been good.
So, how did you get it started? Like, how did you decide what to start and how you wanted to run it and where all your ideas came from? Because to have come up with like this much in the way of like ideas is quite impressive.
I did a personality test and it like tested my idea speed, and it said that I was like on kind of the higher end because I do like to just like I like to always be thinking of new things. I always wanted to have a business, and I remember listening to a Girls Invest podcast, and she said create a business where you're marginally better than someone else. And I was like, there's actually nothing that I am better than anyone else. But then I sat back, I was like, hang on, actually, maybe there is. I love to journal. I journal every single day. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And I was like, but I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to journal, that aren't journaling. Maybe I should help them. And I remember seeing a prompted journal, and prompted journals just like weren't a thing back in 2018. And I was like, why don't I make a prompted journal? But instead of it being for your baby, because that's the common ones, something you write out for your baby or your child. So why don't I write something that you can just fill in yourself? And so within 2 weeks, I had written it. I had found the factory. I'd found the key contacts that I needed, and I'd sent it off to a designer, and we'd started 2 weeks after the idea. It took a long time. It took a long time to get it from, just the idea and written down to actually being a proper book. But I think when I see something that I want to do, I'll run fast with it. For example, Dear Brides, I was told the idea on December the 31st, 2022. And it was late at night, obviously it's New Year's Eve. We're hanging out with the family. And my sister said, oh my gosh, Hannah, there's this new concept that came out 2 months ago. It's called wedding content creation. You do it on your iPhone. And as soon as she said that to me, I grabbed my laptop. And in that moment, I created a sub page on my website that said, and I typed up research. No one in New Zealand had done it. And so I was like, I'm going to be the first. And so I launched a little sub part on my website and did Dear Brides, because I was like, cool, what's the name? And I was a little bit, the reason why there's a lot of my things are called Dear, Dear, Dear was because I was a little bit too cheap to go and buy new websites. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just like combine them all and kind of make them their own thing. Now Dear Community and Dear the Series are completely separate. One's a charity, one's a business. And then Dear Brides is kind of fitting because I was like, Dear Brides may as well. Now it's also very separate and it's owned by Seven Content Studio. But yeah, within that day, I created Dear Brides. And it is now, New Zealand's first wedding content creation service. And yeah, I guess I'm over a year into it, and it's been really, really fun. And then Dear Community, I guess, just came out of an idea that just hit me in March 2022, and realized that, how are people making friends, like I alluded to before. And then, I created something that day as well. I was so excited. I remember I was working, and as soon as I clocked off, I jumped on and had created an Instagram handle called Do Life Together. And then that night, I remember like thinking about the business and the idea, and I was like, actually, I'm going to call it Dear Community. I like the name. So I created it, and then 2 weeks after that, we launched our first event, and we had about 30 girls. So yeah, it was fun. It's fun. I like to do things fast, but sometimes I don't think about them enough. So I need to slow down. But yeah.
When you created Dear Community, did you already have like a social media presence? Because getting like 30 girls to show up to something not necessarily knowing a lot, like obviously you'll know people around you, but that's like 30 people that you've got to get to show up. Did you have a presence and that encouraged you to be able to do it, or?
No, I didn't. I only really started on TikTok a year ago, or maybe 15 months ago, where I did a few videos, but very, very, very small. I just created a TikTok account and posted a few videos, and they did well. And so I think it's purely through TikTok and through semi-viral videos that helped grow Dear Community, but it wasn't ever through me. Yeah,
that's actually really cool that you kind of, because you've like built it up from the ground up. That I think that makes it even cooler as well.
No, it's cool. I love it. It's my little baby.
I was about to say, it shows how much like passion you have for it, that you've kept going from the bottom all the way up to how successful it is now.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's very, very cool.
What are your biggest achievements from your like side hustles?
Oh gosh, I feel like I don't really like talking about it because I feel like I've just had so many people say to me whenever I do share that I'm super up myself. Yeah, so I always get quite reserved where I'm like, oh, obviously I talk about, getting my first house, and yeah, I've been hammered hard for that. So I get a bit guarded whenever someone asks me that. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to share it in the way that I'm nervous to come across as boastful. So please don't take this as me being boastful. I need to think about how I'm going to word this. My biggest
It's okay.
achievements in terms of like just side hustles or overall or what?
Do both. Tell me like what your biggest achievements or the ones that have meant the most to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the biggest numbers or the biggest success in terms of
Mm.
business, but what achievements meant the most to you, as well as in just like your generalized life, having
Yeah,
side
I
hustles.
think I always thought that I was dumb growing up. I always thought I was generally not very smart. And so I went to school, I was homeschooled, I went to school and managed to graduate with excellence endorsements throughout the 3 years. And I still went to university, and still after that didn't feel like I was smart. Like it was always something in my head going, no, you're dumb, you're really dumb. And it wasn't until I graduated and I went up on stage and they called out Hannah Marcus Massey Scholar, and I didn't know what that meant, and like they gave me like this extra thing, and I kind of walked away. I was like, what on earth do they mean? And I worked out later on that it meant that I graduated in the top 3% in university, and there was 3 of us that were chosen out of 150 due to our grades. And I think it was one of those things where I just always thought that I was just dumb and I was not smart enough, and it was really reassuring, I think, for me to go, okay, I think I know stuff. Like I'm beating myself up quite a lot. So that meant a lot to be able to walk away and go, okay, like I feel like I tried hard and it was seen. Because a lot of times where I will try really, really hard and it just kind of goes unnoticed. I know I'm not doing it for people to see it, but I think that meant a lot. But that aside, I think Dear Community, simply yesterday I had an event, and looking at the room and watching people laugh and chat to people and then whipping out their phones and getting each other's Instagrams, that for me like completely warms my heart. I'm like, I'm like tick done. I could go to my grave and be like, I'm so happy right now. Like I'm so content with how Dear Community has turned out. Obviously I want to be here until I'm 100, but I want to keep making more and more Dear Community events. But I feel like I feel like I've hit that goal of mine, which is to create a space where women feel like they can come together and just be themselves and meet other people. And so that was really special. That's something recent where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm happy. That's a big accomplishment. So I'd say that's probably one of my biggest is launching the charity.
Would you ever think of like, as obviously because it's like targeted for 18 through 35, I think it is. Is that right?
Yeah.
Would you ever think of, as you like grow past that mark, if you're still heavily involved in it, creating like almost a second branch of it for an older demographic as well, like the 40 through 60 kind of range?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It is something that I've had a lot of questions about, especially with guys as well. Guys want one. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think we'll see. Things are going to change so much when I'm 35. Like that's 10 years away. So yeah, it could definitely be something on the pipeline, but I wouldn't launch it until I do hit that age myself.
Oh yeah,
Just
100%.
so maybe we'll see.
Just because I was thinking about it, you're like saying how you'd love to do it till you're 100, but like little 100-year-old Hannah with her little 18-year-olds that she's got round at her house kind of thing.
I know it's a bit weird. Yeah, I think my dream with Dear Community is to create a charity where I'm able to hire people that they can do what they love. And they wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, I love my job because I get to work in a women's charity where I get to do events. So for me, I want to grow it to a position where I can step back and go, okay, cool, I'll kind of supervise the board, and I'll be on the board, and I'll be able to help make those high level decisions. But actually I would love to pass a lot of the roles on to people that truly love that position and also get paid a living wage. And I love that. It's just got to get some money in. So yeah, it's tricky at the moment.
Okay, so we've talked about like your biggest achievements. What have been the biggest struggles you've faced when you're trying to grow and create your side hustles?
I think it's the expectation I put on myself. I had that I really wanted to hit 50 stockist for Data Series, and that goal was meant to be hit, over a year ago, and I'm at 30 now, and it's so devastating. There's this one stockist that I badly, badly want, and they keep on turning me down. And so I think it's just like, it sucks. Like, I remember there was one day where I got that email, and I got a few other emails, and every single email I always scan for the word unfortunately. Every single email that I get, even today, it's like, if I've pitched myself to someone, I don't even read the intro. I just scan. Is there a word unfortunately? There is. Okay, that's it. And so I think I just put on so much pressure onto myself for going, I have to hit this. I have to hit this. And when I don't hit it, I get really disappointed. So yeah, it's just trusting in the process, trusting in the timing that things will work out, because hopefully things will work out. But yeah, I think it sucks when you try so hard and a competitor jumps in and they're doing better than you, and it's just comparison. And yeah, there's a lot, but owning businesses is hard.
I definitely feel you with like the pitching thing, because going from like somebody who's got no previous like social media platform and has started the podcast and the platforms and all building from the bottom, like reaching out to people and being like, hey, I love what you do. I'd love to chat with you about it. And sending out so many emails and pitches to people and being like, if I get one back, that's like amazing.
Yeah.
And then I received more than I ever thought. And I'm like, wait, like what? Like
That's
people
so cool.
don't have any like expectations, so to speak. This is a good question. Is there anything coming up with any of your projects that you can share a bit more about?
With Dear Community, we're going to be launching camps, which is really cool, because I think there is something so special about being able to meet people at an event, but then also spending a whole weekend with a group of people is amazing. I've done ski trips before where it was 2 nights with, a small group of people, and we became great friends. So I'm so excited to be launching camps. We're going to be looking at more events that are like the same group of people for a few weeks, so you actually get to build more meaningful connections. So just really looking at restructuring Dear Community and how those events are looked at. In terms of anything else, bringing in more content creators for Dear Brides, I'll be launching 2 today, which is really exciting. They're amazing people. Yeah, I've got something really exciting coming out in my personal acting life, which I haven't announced anywhere really. I've already done it. It's over, it's finished, but it should be coming out sometime soon. So that's there you go. I haven't mentioned it anywhere else on my platform.
Exciting.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that. It's just a wee little thing, but it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into that. And it was a lot of time and months of preparation. And yeah, I'm really, really excited. So that's cool. So that's coming out. And there's another ad that I did for quite a big commercial coming out in April. So you'll see some posters coming around soon.
Oh, very exciting. I look forward to it.
No, it was fun. It was a fun time.
Okay, and then we have our lucky last question before we wrap up, which is, if you were to start from scratch, what's one thing you'd change and one thing you'd keep the same?
Whoa, that's a good question. I don't even know if I've ever thought of that. One thing I would change, I would probably have gotten myself mentors very early on. I didn't. I wish. I've got an amazing mentor now for Dear Community, named Cassidy Skelton. She's so
I
cool.
love Cass.
Yeah, she's amazing. She has helped me so much in the past few weeks, and I wish I got her on board earlier. One thing I would keep would be, I definitely would keep the fact that I launched all these businesses with my full-time job. It gave me so much more grit and determination, and it meant that I had to push through some really difficult times, and I was waking up at 5, doing 3 hours of work before clocking on to my day job, and then, finishing at 4 and working till 8. It was a crazy time, but I look back and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did it, because it meant that it built me up and it built me to be really resilient. And yeah, I definitely would have done that again. I definitely recommend people launching side hustles with their full-time job, bearing with it for just a little bit, and then jumping in, going all in.
So if anybody who's listened to this wants to like find you on social media, where can they find you?
TikTok, Instagram, just Hannah Kamarkis. Otherwise, Dear Brides for winning content creation, 7 Content Studio if you want marketing, strategy, social media, Dear Community NZ or Dear Community AUS for Australians. I will be launching that this year. Yeah, and if you want some vintage secondhand clothing, everything vintage NZ. There's a few plugs for you.
Awesome. Thank
Very
you so
cool.
much for coming and chatting with me today. I really, really
Oh,
appreciate it.
it was
And
so
yeah,
good. I'm excited to hear it. And yeah, best of luck with all the other podcasts and your guests. I think it's going to be so great for women to hear so many different stories and different backgrounds and everything. So yeah, thank you.
definitely.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode. It's been great having you. If you have any topics you'd love for me to discuss, want some big sisterly advice, or just want to say hey, just reach out to me on Instagram at It's a Girl Thing Pod, and I hope you join us next week. Stay beautiful.